I was recently commissioned by a gentleman I'd met in one of the hat forums, and I was very pleased to be asked to work with him on a 1940s design hat. He'd seen one of mine that I'd previously produced and liked the design and the shape and the colour and so on. And above is the specification that we finally agreed on. And this is the journey that I went through to make the hat. The journey starts with the caplin or the felt, and also looking at the stiffness of the felt. And it happened that this particular felt was stiff enough for the job in hand. So I proceeded to stretch it over the hat block, which was an open crown hat block, and get a really nice break between the brim and the crown. That takes quite a while to do, but it's a very rewarding job. And at the end of it, you cut the brim down to size. Having cut the brim down to size, then we leave the hat on the block and go through a process that's called pouncing. Now, pouncing is where we use different grades of sandpaper. Yes, you heard right, sandpaper. And we smooth the felt that the hat is being made of. And it really does. It brings off the pile, and it can turn what might start as a seemingly sort of rough felt into something that's silky smooth. Now, you can spend anything from 15 minutes through to an hour or more in pouncing a felt. I tend to spend somewhere around the sort of 45 minutes, which is what I did in this case. After the hat is pounced, in many occasions, I mark up the felt with at the front and back and sides using the block and marking it with chalk. And what that does, it enables me then to be able to put on the sweatband right in the central position. But before making up the sweatband, I many times put the crown shape into the hat just to see how it goes, and is it going to be the right height for the customer and so on. So I shaped up the hat, and then we're going to use one of our wider sweatbands, which I get from America, and they're a really lovely soft leather. And so the sweatband is cut to the size of the person's head. It's then taken to the sewing room, sewn up at the joint with a bow added. And in this case, we wanted to put a beige coloured bow onto the hat. Before I go to the sewing room, by the way, we put what's known as a basting stitch, which is really like a tacking stitch to keep the sweatband in place. As you can see on the picture here, it's got a needle going through, and that's really it's tacked every sort of centimetre around the crown where it fits the brim, and then I take it to the sewing machine and sew the leather onto the felt. Having got the shape in the hat and the leather sweatband into the crown and attached to the brim, what I normally do is put one of my 18mm wooden blocks into the open shape and press the brim. Having pressed the brim, I then take it to the sewing machine, and we use a little foot adapter to take the grosgrain and trim it round the brim edge. It's a little bit tricky, but it's a nice rewarding thing to do when it goes well. And having done that, you bring it back down, and we have what's known as a brim block. So you have a crown block, and then you have a brim block. So in this case, the hat goes upside down on the brim block, and we start to steam the brim to the shape of the block, and that's what gives the brim its upturned appearance. And some people may not know this, but the grosgrain actually shrinks when it gets the steam and the heat on it, and so that brings the brim in a bit tighter, adding to the shape and the stiffness of the overall hat. Next, we come to the dressing of the crown with the grosgrain, where we're putting a bow and the ribbon right the way around the base of the crown, and really we're hiding up the stitches that attach the sweatband to the felt. What I've seen recently actually is many manufacturers are now manufacturing hats where they're actually not putting on the ribbon and exposing the stitching. It's not something I've done yet, but what we've got here is the grosgrain ribbon, which is a 38mm. It's a beautiful colour. It's a sort of a purpley colour, and I make up the bow in one, and the remainder of the ribbon, then drape it round the hat, cut it to size, and then pin it with dressmaker's pins, and then hand sew it to attach it to the felt. Now, bearing in mind, there's no real major strain going on this ribbon, so it's just tacking it around, and many times you can't even see where it's actually been stitched in. Then, following the stitching, I steam the grosgrain, which brings it in so that there's no gaps around the top of the grosgrain when it fits onto the felt on the crown. The final stage is putting the lining in, and I like making up linings myself. So I have a local embroidery company that embroider my logo on some satin that I get for them, and then I cut and make up the satin inserts that go around the side, and then stitch it all up. These are pre-made in many cases, and to different sizes depending on what size hat I'm making at the time. Just placed into the hat, and then the sweatband is pulled over. In my beginning of hat making, I was diligently sewing them into the hats, but I think when and if the hat needs a bit of a fresh up, and you want to take the lining out to give it a bit of a clean, it becomes a little bit of a challenge if it's been tacked in there. So just by placing it underneath, and in fact, I use lining, if you like, to put at the back of the satin, so it gives it a bit more strength. So it can be taken out and it can be sort of cleaned, not in a washing machine, but certainly dabbed and use some of the sort of chemicals that you can get these days to get stains off and things. And finally, on the right hand side there, you can see how that looks inside the hat. And I'm very pleased to say that this is the final result of the process that we've gone through, which took about 5 hours or just over to make the hat. And I'm pleased with the result. I just hope that my customer is. Thanks very much.